become more reckless as the virus continues to ravage the country. Elected leaders are now leading in breaching the restrictions, and restaurants are fast becoming liquor dens. Interestingly, the government says the matter is still under scrutiny.
I apologize to Kenyans, and I will pay the full consequence of the law.
Plus, Sakaja apologizes, resigns. Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja resigns as chairman of the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on COVID-19. Sakaja was caught drinking alcohol past curfew hours over the weekend. The senator is sorry for his actions but will still have to face the law. We have the details here tonight. And politics, politicians and policies. On Pandits Night tonight, our resident analyst Herman Manyora, Wasingishu woman Rep Gladys Sholei, and Ndaragwa Member of Parliament Jeremiah Kioni discuss the politics of the week, including the apparent rift in Mount Kenya.
This is TV47 News Tonight with Abubakar Abdullahi.
Tonight of all nights, Anne Wairimu is our sign language interpreter. TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi, begins right now. Now, the country has recorded 418 new COVID-19 cases today, pushing the total tally to 13,771. The cases were from a sample size of 2,474, which were tested in the last 24 hours. 4 more patients have, however, succumbed to the virus, which has claimed 238 lives so far. 494 people have been reported to have recovered from the virus, with a total tally now of recoveries standing at 5,616. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has noted with regret the don't care attitude among Kenyans in regards to adhering to COVID-19 containment measures. The ministry has noted that bars and restaurants are operating beyond curfew hours while flouting the spelt measures, making them COVID-19 breeding grounds. Mwangi Maina begins our broadcast tonight.
According to the Ministry of Health, Kenyans have thrown COVID-19 containment measures to the wind as the country witnesses surging numbers and COVID-19 related deaths on a daily basis. To some, COVID-19 is no longer a matter of concern.
That the more cases we are reporting of COVID-19, the more we are seeing Kenyans taking to the bars, and some very late in the evenings. I thought the guidelines were very clear that bars remain closed. And in his address to the nation on 6th July, the President insisted that the bars had to remain closed.
In the past few days, we have continued to witness misbehavior by some Kenyans, including some of our leaders who are hell-bent on flouting all measures that have been put in place. I am saddened that particularly here in Nairobi, where the numbers are growing in their hundreds every day, a lot of people do not seem to care.
The ministry is now concerned that bars have opened and are operating way past curfew hours. The government says the bars will be dealt with in accordance to the law.
So anyone who is serving a beer in a sitting arrangement is contravening the presidential directive. So only stern action can be taken against such. And the ministry, with conjunction with other relevant authorities, are working on this. And as the CS said, some may have to be closed, but not just closed. I think there is a legal notice in the process. And punitive action will be taken against it, not just closing the restaurants.
44 counties have so far recorded cases of COVID-19, save for Elgeyo Marakwet, West Pokot and Samburu counties. The Ministry of Health is calling on Kenyans to adhere to the measures set out, adding that the virus is widely spread in communities and with a rise in community transmissions.
We are aware that some people are not taking this disease seriously, and some do not even believe in the figures given by the government. This is not true. my friends.
Nairobi is leading with 7,744 cases, followed by Mombasa, which has 1,825 cases, and Kiambu County coming third with 769 cases. Kajiado has recorded 694 cases, with border counties of Busia and Machakos reporting 635 cases and 372 cases respectively. Other counties that have recorded high numbers include Migori, Nakuru, Uasin Gishu, Kilifi, Makueni, and Kwale counties.
As the country continues to record high numbers of COVID-19 on a daily basis, Kenyans have continued to disregard measures put in place by the Ministry of Health to combat the spread of coronavirus. Mwangi Maina, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Mwangi Maina, for that report. Elsewhere, President Uhuru Kenyatta has scheduled an extraordinary session of the National County Government Coordination Summit on Friday following a surge in coronavirus cases. The session will be checking the county's state of preparedness and the effectiveness of the containment measures already in place. Nanok Lorraine reports.
In a meeting scheduled for Friday this week, the summit that comprises of the national and county governments is expected to evaluate the county's preparedness and the nation's capacity to fight the novel coronavirus, the effectiveness of the containment measures currently in place, and its impacts on the easing of restrictions that were previously in place. The summit will also look at the evolution of the disease and how it may transmit in the months of August and September. The meeting comes at a time the COVID-19 numbers are still on the rise, and more so after cessation of movements and restrictions were eased. From the month of March, when the first COVID-19 case was reported in the country, the number has continued to escalate. In March, only 59 cases were reported, whereas in April, 337 cases were reported. May documented 1,566 cases, which rose to 4,398 cases in June. In the month of July alone, for the past 20 days, a total of 7,414 cases have been recorded. From figures, a larger number has been reported in a span of 14 days since President Uhuru Kenyatta eased the movement restrictions in the country, with a total amounting to 5,713 cases, after 418 were reported to be positive today. The fraction having amounted to 41.49% against the national tally. Kenyans, however, have been seen to have resumed life as normal despite the spike in these numbers.
Let us not for a moment forget what this physical and social distancing means. We must be aware of that at all times and maintain those distances, because that is the way the virus spreads.
Nanok Lauren, TV47.
Now, Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja will be arraigned in court tomorrow for contravening COVID-19 measures. Sakaja, who presented himself at Kilimani Police Station, has also apologized to Kenyans and resigned from the Senate's ad hoc committee on coronavirus.
Speaking after presenting himself at the Kilimani police station to record a statement, the senator admitted his mistake and said he will take full responsibility. Sakaja was arrested on Saturday in the company of 3 others in a city bar, contravening COVID-19 measures.
I, number one, take responsibility for having flouted the COVID rules on Friday. I was outside my home after 9, and that is against the rules. I apologize to Kenyans, and I will pay the full consequence of the law. It is regrettable, but all of us make mistakes. And so on that aspect, I do take responsibility, and indeed I want to urge Kenyans to follow the government's directives.
However, the senator took issue with the conduct of police officers after the incident, claiming that they intimidated his family. The senator denied allegations that he threatened police officers during his arrest and accused them of using excessive force against him.
And as I've said, I will bear responsibility for the legal issues. But the fact that the whole of Saturday and Sunday, more than 50 officers brandishing guns have been going to my residence. I'm not a fugitive. My children have not committed any crime. Why come intimidate them with guns? 50 officers. I am not on the run. I called Ndolo, I told him, if you want me to appear I'm a leader, I'll appear. Sijatisha mtu, sina nguvu ya kufuta mtu kazi ama kutransfer mtu. Ni vile ile mambo mengine ambayo iliendelea ndio ilinionyesha ni mambo mengine. Yaani hadi hata kupigwa ngumi mimi.
Sakaja has in the meantime resigned from the Senate's ad hoc committee on COVID-19 and is set to appear at Milimani Law Courts tomorrow.
He has already paid cash bail, asking of some 10,000 shillings. So he'll not be in custody. He'll appear in court tomorrow.
Now, the Ministry of Health is blaming the police for failing to take action against political leaders who have been holding political rallies against the COVID-19 containment measures. Political leaders across the country have been holding meetings even after President Uhuru Kenyatta extended the ban on political gatherings.
The political leaders in Western Kenya have been holding series of meetings in full violation of COVID-19 restriction measures. Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa and Kakamega Governor Wycliffe Oparanya have had several meetings in the region. The president, in his address to the nation on 6th July, extended the ban on political meetings. Thousands of supporters to those political leaders have been flooding in those meetings, contravening the government directives. The Ministry of Health, however, is now blaming the police for failing to take action against those holding such meetings.
Okay. As far as following up on who has broken a regulation and what should be done, I think that is now government machinery that will swing in and take the necessary action that is required.
Meanwhile, the government has refuted claims that at least 2 cabinet secretaries have tested positive for COVID-19. This comes even as the government spokesperson Cyrus Oguna dismissed reports of being hospitalized in a city hospital after testing positive for the virus.
I don't know about any CSEs who were tested and who turned out positive. Honestly, I do not know. I don't know if my colleagues here know.
Elsewhere, Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia, alongside other 3 cabinet secretaries, toured the Western region to inspect development projects in the region on the official launch of a 40-kilometer road. The 1 billion shillings project was started by Bungoma County Government to open up Tongaren constituency.
In his tour to the Western Region counties, Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia launched the second phase of the 40-kilometer road from Brigadier to Misiku, a project that will cost up to 1 billion Kenya shillings.
Wakati Governor Lusaka alikuwa governor hapa, alikuwa ananipigia simu kila siku kwa sababu ya hii barabara. Na nikasema leo tutazindua hii barabara. Tumesikia maombi yenu ya ile section kutoka Brigadier kwenda Matunda kilomita 8. Waziri mwenyewe alikuwa ameniambia, na halafu hata mheshimiwa Eseli amesema, na hata governor wa Gamati amesema. Kwa hivyo tukirudi Nairobi, hiyo pesa ya kilomita 8 tutatafuta.
Speaking during the launch, Macharia warned the contractor, who has been blamed for poor workmanship, saying they will be inspecting the quality of work done after every project is completed.
There's a problem. Kuna shida hapa. Kwa sababu is not a chance, by chance, ya kwamba kila kiongozi akisimama hapa anasema hii contractor amefanya kazi baya. Sasa nimesikia, na kama tumesema, sasa hii pesa milioni 700 inatoka kule national government. Na ajue contractor nikwambie, I'll be coming here to check the quality of the work being done.
The 40-kilometer road project, which was started in 2016, costed the national government approximately 1 billion shillings.
Tuko na mawaziri watatu. Kwa nini? Sababu ya barabara zetu Western Kenya. Hii barabara tukimaliza, tunaelekea ile ya Musikoma kwenda Navaholo. Hiyo ina connect Bungoma County na Kakamega. Dunia itajua Vihiga County has the finest granite on the African continent.
Meanwhile, the 15-kilometer Gisambai-Shamakoko road, which will cost the national government 1 billion shillings, is among other projects that will be executed in Vihiga County. Andrin Kilemi for TV47.
Well, celebrated actor Charles Bukeko, popularly known as Papa Shirandula, has been laid to rest at his home in Namisi village in Busia County. Bukeko died of COVID-19 at Karen Hospital in Nairobi last week. Our reporter Mike Kagwongo reports from Busia County.
It is at Namisi village in Funyula constituency, Busia County, where the body of the renowned actor was laid to rest. Bukeko is the firstborn son to Mr. Cosmas Bukeko Wafula. Papa Shirandula passed on Friday last week. According to his widow, Beatrice Ndenga, the actor died at Karen Hospital in Nairobi in his car while waiting to be booked in at the hospital.
I went to Karen Hospital. Admission was just another process. I'm telling you, please, he needs support and an emergency. The time they're still preparing, he passed on while I'm sitting with the vehicle.
She states she had earlier asked Papa to undergo various tests, but she discovered he only availed COVID-19 test, which are the only tests he underwent at the hospital.
And I told him, make sure they carry out 3 tests on you. They carry pneumonia, malaria, and the COVID-19. I told him COVID-19 because you're mingling with so many people. I told him pneumonia and malaria because the weather is too cold in Nairobi. I told him make sure there are 3. He told me okay. He went on Monday. Then he came back saying they amechukua test. They are waiting for the results. Come on Wednesday, I asked him, the doctor has got the results. Yes. Can you have letter all the results? But the only one I'm seeing here is the one of COVID-19. What about the rest?
His family, including his mother, Valerie Wafula, and father, Mr. Cosmas Bukeko Wafula, eulogizing the late as a family man who was social.
I will reserve my comments mpaka baadaye ndio tutakuja kukaa.
Mtoto huyo ndio wangu, ndio tegemeo letu hapa. Ndio mambo yote hapa, bila mnatuona hivi. Hatuna uwezo wote saa hii.
Fellow comedians in the country with whom he worked eulogized him as down-to-earth and generous man who was ready to nurture young talents.
Tumepoteza gwiji ambayo amelea watu wengi sana, ikiwamo hata mimi. Yeye kutokana na hicho kipindi cha Papa ndio nilipata hata idea ya kufanya mshamba.
Yaani ile uchungu ambayo tunasikia kwa roho ni kitu ambacho hakiwezi kuelezeka. Sijui niseme nini. Imenishtua tu kama vile imeshtua watu wengi sana.
Mr. Charles Bukeko amebadilisha maisha yangu. Ile maisha naishi sasa hivi, ile experience nimekuwa nayo, zile vitu mingi ambazo nimefanya katika maisha yangu na katika maisha yangu ya usanii, ni Charles Bukeko amezikuza.
Tumekuwa tukipanga kipindi kipya ambacho alinipigia akiniuliza namba za wasanii tofauti, akiwapatia nafasi ya kazi. Na bahati mbaya ameenda hata kabla mimi nifanye ile kazi amenipatia niweze kufanya.
Papa leaves behind a widow and 3 children.
Tumepoteza.
And after a short illness, Papa Shirandula's life, full of hope and admiration, has just ended right here in this grave in Namisi village, Funyula constituency, county of Busia. Reporting for TV47 from Busia County, I'm Mike Kagwango.
May his soul rest in eternal peace. 19 minutes past the hour, you're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Time for us to take a short break. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back after this break. Stay tuned.
To receive breaking news alerts, SMS the word news to 20376.
Je, ungependa kujua jinsi ninavyojizuia kuambukizwa au kuambukizana virusi vya korona? Ni rahisi. Mwanzo, ninaziendesha shughuli zangu zote za kikazi.
Welcome back to TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Now, the Karen Hospital has refuted claims that the late popular actor Charles Bukeko, who is popularly known as Papa Shirandula, was not attended to at the hospital. In a statement this evening, the hospital has refuted the medical negligence claim by the deceased wife. Now, Karen Hospital CEO Dr. Juliet Nyaga says it is unfortunate and aggrieved by the claims. The hospital added that the issue is being investigated. Elsewhere, Senate will be meeting tomorrow in a bid to unlock the current county revenue standoff. This is after the House failed to agree on the disputed revenue sharing formula. House Speaker Kenneth Lusaka has expressed confidence that the House will agree on the formula.
Tutajaribu kutatua kesho, tuone kama tutapata formula ili pesa ziweze kuja katika kaunti zetu. Ndio maana narudi tunang'ang'ana tunafanya negotiations kwa sababu kuna wale ambao wanataka pesa population itumiwe kugawa pesa, kuna wale wanasema wanataka area itumiwe kugawa pesa. Kwa hivyo ndio swala ambalo tuko nalo, lakini najua yatatatuliwa. Imekuwa ngumu kule Senate, lakini Mungu Maulana anaimanya sana na anaendelea kusaidia.
Now, political leaders in the Mount Kenya region have been holding meetings to chart a way for Uhuru's succession as the region's kingpin. A section of leaders have positioned themselves for the succession and to succeed Uhuru, who is set to retire in 2 years' time. Mumbi Chege reports.
The race to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta as Mount Kenya region's kingpin is slowly intensifying, with meetings ongoing in the region and the city 2 years ahead of Uhuru's retirement. Although refuting the claims, a section of leaders from the region have recently held closed-door meetings discussing Uhuru's succession. Some of the prospect candidates in the region include former Gatanga MP Peter Kenneth, former Agriculture CS and TSP party leader Mwangi Kiunjuri, Murang'a Governor Mwangi Wairia, Kirinyaga Governor Anne Mombe Waiguru, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, Agriculture CS Peter Munya. And with the sly entrance of former Gatanga MP Peter Kenneth back into national politics, eliciting mixed reactions, a section of Murang'a leaders have endorsed him as their preferred candidate and proposing the former legislature for a seat in the cabinet.
We are saying the president, once he reconstitutes his cabinet, let him consider one of us, that is Peter Kenneth. We are rallying behind him. We know he can do a good job if appointed to a senior position. We are united. You can see last time we were in Gatanga, we were several members of parliament. We are now here in Marago. We are also a group of members of parliament from Murang'a County.
We also wanted to tell them that what the president is proposing, we are in support. That one of ours, Peter Kenneth, is going to be amongst the reshuffle that will be done. And standing there to represent Murang'a County, he gives a very good picture because we know what Peter Kenneth has done during the time he was MP Gatanga 2 times. And this is a figure that is known in Western region, Nyanza, Eastern Coast. So this is a face that we would not shy off.
A group of leaders allied to the Deputy President William Ruto have criticized those drumming up support for Peter Kenneth, saying there are a lot of leaders from the region who fit the bill in succeeding President Kenyatta. A section of cabinet secretaries from the region have been said to have met over the weekend. Mumbi Chege, TV47.
Now, Nyandarua County Assembly has been closed after a COVID-19 case was reported. Elsewhere, transport was paralyzed along Nairobi's Jogoo Road after some demonstrators blocked the road protesting an alleged land-grabbing incident. This and other stories. This is our county's roundup.
A family in Wote is crying for justice after their son was allegedly murdered and his body rushed to the morgue without their knowledge. Stephen Sow was allegedly murdered yesterday, with the police claiming that Sow committed suicide using his jacket in his lover's house in Shimo Estate.
You're watching TV47 News Tonight with me, Abubakar Abdullahi. Half an hour past the hour. Time for us to take a short break. We still have a lot lined up for you. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. Let's get to the world of sports now. Now, after weeks of service, the Jubilee Act seems to have met its target. Whether it was clearing the way for the BBI report or regaining the grip of the houses for the president, the Jubilee House to some is in order, or is it? Good evening and welcome to Pandits Night. I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. Thank you as always for making time for us. This is a political show where your voice matters. More than just stating, we will endeavor to explain all that is happening in the political spheres across the country and on all matters that will need our analysis beyond the country. Our guests tonight, let me introduce our political analyst and residential analyst as well of the show, Herman Manyora. Gladys Sholei was supposed to be with us on this show, but I understand that will not be the case. Jeremiah Kioni, Nderagwa, Member of Parliament, joins us as well for the show. Good evening, gentlemen. The show has to continue. Thank you for making time for us tonight.
Good evening.
All right, Herman, let me start with you. What, in your view, if someone is to ask, necessitated the changes in the House leadership committees and the compositions?
In the kind of democracy we have, the leader of the nation executes his manifesto and the policies through the House, because then you enact laws and so on and so forth. And therefore, the party is instrumental in the president, for example, in our case, ensuring that his agenda sails through. And party leadership in the House is critical to that kind of endeavor. Mm-hmm. And therefore, when they give you a party position in the House leadership, they want to rely on you to achieve what they want to achieve. Now, should there come a time when the president or the leader of the party feels that his agenda will be compromised, if you continue occupying that leadership position in the House, certainly they will remove you. And I think that is the case with Jubilee, where the president feels that for some reasons that there are people occupying leadership position in the House, mm-hmm. courtesy of Jubilee Party, who are standing in the way of him achieving what he wants to achieve.
Herman, there are those who paint a picture of a president who had lost grip of the two houses before the somewhat political cleaning. Was that the case as well?
No, it's not a question of losing grip. Politics is dynamic. Look here, I go with you on journey. You are traveling with me. I'm President Kenyatta. You are doing quite fine. At some point along the way, you are distracted by certain things, and I notice that, and I know you are no longer with me. That it doesn't mean I'm not in control. I'm in control, and that's why I've noticed that you are not doing what you are supposed to do to help me achieve what I'm supposed to achieve. On the contrary to what you are saying, actually, it shows the president is firmly in control. Otherwise, he would not have noticed.
Herman, you say he is firmly in control. That is now. Before the access, some will say he wasn't firmly in control.
You know, sometimes in politics, it might be dangerous to move with the speed certain people expect you to move with. You need to be cautious in politics. You need to know that every move you make could bring with it consequences that you may not handle. And therefore, you weigh all your options, you put everything in place, you know what could be the consequences before you move. And I think good leaders don't hurry into those kind of actions. They take time, and when they move, then Duale goes.
All right, let me...
Duale at the wrong time, for example.
All right, let me
bring to yourself a lot of problems.
Let me bring in Jeremiah Kioni, Nderagwa, Member of Parliament, to the discussion. If the intention of the Jubilee House cleaning was to remove the political dirt from the House of the Jubilee, is tonight the House of Jubilee clean, politically at least?
I don't think that the House was ever untidy.
But it needed some cleaning.
It is only that we needed to put things where they ought to be. Where you need to have your table, you need to put it where it should be, and that just having some little bit of order. But the Jubilee House has never been untidy, and it is the main thing is that when we went throughout the country asking for votes led by the President Uhuru Kenyatta, there were promises that were made. And it is only fair that as a party we remain honest and faithful, truthful to those promises, and we use every minute available within the 5 years trying to fulfill those promises. And if for one reason or another it is apparent that the team that has been given that responsibility does not seem to be taking us there, then it is only right for the captain of the team, in this case President Uhuru Kenyatta, to try and
All right, Jeremiah, why is it then that the realization of this team All right, we seem to be having a technical hitch there. Nonetheless, let me bring back Herman to the discussion. Herman, there are those who point fingers at the timing of these political housekeeping in the ruling Jubilee Party. Why is that realization of the political tidiness coming at such a time?
You know, first, Uhuru is doing his last term. And because of that, succession is important. And you realize we are moving closer and closer to 2022. That means the activities will move a little faster than they were before. Politicians will notice things they were not noticing before or they were ignoring, which can no longer be ignored. And for that reason, you must read what is happening within the context of time, within the context of succession, within the context of Uhuru wanting to have a legacy. And like any other leader doing his last term, wanting to have a say, where possible, in who comes in power after him. Because this is Africa. Other places of the world, nobody might care, but in Africa, people care. I also suspect in many parts of the world, people do care who takes over after them. And therefore, that's why activities have been heightened.
All right, but that seems as though it is one-sided, Herman, isn't it not the case? When you look at the names of the people who have been affected by the acts that befell on them, from Moses Kuria, Alice Wahome, Robert Pukose, Fred Kapondi, Joyce Korir, Khatim Washetani, Victor Munyaka, Aden Duale, the former majority leader as well of the Senate, Kipchumba Murkomen. This looks as though it is a one-sided affair.
Well, you see the dynamics I'm talking about. After the handshake, things were never going to be the same. And it was obvious that if William Ruto was going to kind of resist the handshake, there was going to come a time when the president was going to move to ensure that then he does not stand in that handshake, in the way of the handshake. And if the people who have stuck with William Ruto, for example, have refused to read the signs, the president, I have heard him repeatedly say, let's not do politics now. Let's look at development. Let's look at the 4-point agenda. And if the people have continuously ignored, including those among those who have been asked, facing off with the president, telling him off, honestly, it doesn't even need to be Africa, anywhere in the world. Surely the axe will fall on you. So I think really it might look one-sided, but that is how it was. The script has been played in that manner. Those who would have played Chinyamaji, as young people would say, came out in the open to oppose what the president was saying and doing. To that extent, therefore, when this happened, it will have to have those kind of results of what you are calling one-sided.
All right. Jeremiah Kioni is back with us now. Mheshimiwa, you seem to be downplaying the extent in which there was a disquiet or a division within your party. You have a right to defend your party publicly at least, but from the public observation, we have seen more than 3 to 4 times members of your own party disagreeing with the party leader, positions that the party leader is oriented with.
No, I don't want to downplay that at all. Without doubt, we had individuals within the party and within Parliament who thought that there is urgency in some issues as opposed to what we promised the Kenyans, or as opposed to the promises that we made to Kenyans. And for that reason, there was need for the reorganization to be done. And they made a deliberate decision. Unfortunately, they had been entrusted with leadership within the House, and they failed to heed the call and the warnings that the President had given before. And if we needed to be anything else, it's being honest and again truthful to ourselves. Time was running out because we needed to deliver on quite a number of issues that we promised Kenyans to deliver. But we were making too much noises on other issues heading to 2022 as opposed to what was before us on the table. And I am not saying that there were no divisions. There were clear divisions between those who are thinking of 2022 and those who are thinking of how can I do the roads, the water, the electricity, the schools within our area, within the time left. And I belong to the latter. We must deliver before you go asking for votes. You must you must show honesty. You must carry with you, even I don't want to use the word maturity, with you when you are executing your work in Parliament. And I think it was a little unfortunate because we could see that we were derailing the President and really lying to Kenyans. So I totally agree with what the President did. That doesn't mean that we throw away those who are not agreeing. No, they are still with us. They need to be brought back to to where others are.
Jeremiah, Jeremiah, let me interject you at that point. You talk of delivering on the President's ambition and the legacy as well. But nonetheless, if one is to ask, how effective will your oversight independence role be now, understanding that the committees are composed as per the wishes of some political quarters?
Now, Abu Bakr,
yes.
Even those who were in office before, the way we had composed ourselves at the beginning of Parliament, the 12th Parliament, is the same way we constituted ourselves mid-term. So it has nothing to do with, blind loyalty. No, it has a question of being keen again and clear in your mind as to what you need to deliver on. As to whether we need to agree on that, every other time it is important that we agree on what we are telling Kenyans. And like the President had said before, and as it is the case now, it is clear that we have room for disagreements. When the PGs are called, unfortunately we have this COVID maneno, but when the PGs are called, we have every reason to say that this is not the issue, this is not the way I think we should be handling this issue. But like an organized house, once you have disagreed inside your own house, when you go out in the public, you must be able to have agreed on what you tell the public, and then you all deliver on that. If you lost inside, don't come outside screaming again.
All right, Herman Manyora, if one is to ask of the independence of Parliament as an oversight body, after all the action and the recomposition of these committees, how effective will Parliament be going forward?
You know, Bakari, this is a very tricky arrangement, where really we say Parliament must be independent. Congress in America, House of Commons and House of Lords and Senate in America. Yes, but at some point, the party within the House unites to drive the agenda of the President. Look, when Trump was being tried after being impeached by Congress, by the United States Senate, all senators came to the defense of the president when the vote was taken, except, I think, for Mitt Romney alone. Maybe there was another one. I can only remember Mitt Romney. Are you telling me all those senators in the U.S. Senate who are Republican thought Trump had done the right thing? That the articles of impeachment were all not really serious? I doubt. It is the party line. So it's a very tricky arrangement, where Parliament is supposed to be independent, but there comes a time, or there are certain situations, that calls for the party to be united under the president to drive a certain agenda or take a certain vote. Unfortunately, that should be generally the case. Unfortunately for our case, Parliament has always been run from the State House. It's quite unfortunate. So if it's a question of not being independent, it cannot be the case that it's beginning now with this so-called fumigation or change in leadership. From the time these fellows were voted in, a lot of us were annoyed in the manner in which they allowed the president to control Parliament. So it's not going to start now. It's unfortunate. But if you look at the bigger picture, you'll understand that globally, since government is run through Parliament, then there will always be times when the head of government will need the collective strength of his members in the House. That doesn't mean compromise, doesn't mean control from the executive. It simply means that is how politics is run and driven across the world. Only that in our case, there are certain extremes.
Let me just say that the days when Parliament was lent from State House and perhaps from Harambee House were the days of Kanu, when President Moi was firmly in control and was in charge of all the organs of the government. Unlike that time, and Adam Mwai Kibaki and now under Uhuru Kenyatta, Parliament is actually not run from State House. Parliament does execute business brought from State House, from Harambee House, which is expected.
Mheshimiwa, when Parliament dances to the tune of State House and the wishes of, for instance, the head of the executive in reference to the president, that is, in other terms, running the Parliament from State House, isn't it?
But you need to understand and ask yourself, why do you go around the country looking for votes? Why do you go around the country asking for the members of public to elect people from a given party and allow that party to run the government, to run the show for 5 years? It's because you are actually looking for the mandate for that party to run the affairs of the country from the State House, and also from Parliament. And if I run on a Jubilee party ticket, and then when there is a Jubilee agenda on the table, I do not support it. And I'm not being honest. I'm being dishonest to the people who have voted me in. Of course, there is an aspect of independence that we have to be very careful of. And I heard Professor trying to bring it out. When, like, for example, in the US, there was that issue of impeachment. Without doubt, there was some merit in the grounds that were being floated around on impeachment. But you need to weigh. Do you want to get the country into a spin because of that kind of if it's not so fundamental, it's not so monumental, you may want to decide as a member of Parliament to say, I will allow this to go on. It is not right, but it is better off than running ourselves back for a campaign or for an electioneering period. And especially a country like Kenya, with a very low economic growth, we have so many issues that we need to deal with. You really don't want to put yourself in a spin every other time. And you also don't want to say no just because you want people to hear you saying no, like I've seen some people do.
But that doesn't absolve, Mheshimiwa, that doesn't absolve Parliament from the questions of blinded loyalty at large, does it?
But you also need to differentiate between oversight and the loyalty. Oversight will continue being done. There is the issue of being loyal to the promises that you made to Kenyans. There is the issue of being loyal to the party that gave you the ticket, and especially on its ideology and the philosophy. But there is also the issue of oversight. Being loyal does not compromise your oversight role. Your oversight role is saying, how have we used the resources that we are given to us by Kenyans in form of taxpayers? Being loyal is, this is the agenda of the government, we want this position dealt with this way. That one is different from being from the aspect of oversight. And all right. I think there is a little bit of confusing of these terminologies, because I keep hearing people saying like Parliament has lost its independence. The independence of Parliament will be lost without doubt. That will be one of the areas. But the independence of Parliament will be lost, like, for example, and we have this amendment from my committee on the floor, which has not received a lot of support from the media. When you say Parliament requires financial autonomy, independence financially, so that they are not managed by anybody outside themselves. When you mention money to Kenyans, they say, these people want to get more money. And that's not the case. So there is quite a bit of things that Kenyans also need to understand, so that they are able to get the best out of these institutions.
All right, I understand we need to talk about Mount Kenya and the political divisions at the president's backyard. But before that, we need to as well take a short break. We'll be back with the divide in Mount Kenya, at least politically, after this break. Welcome back to Pandits Night. Remember, you can be part of this program. Send us a message on 22047. Call us on the number on your screen. The hashtag to use is Pandits Night. Share with us your thoughts. Let's get back to our discussion. Just a reminder of who our guests are tonight. Herman Manyora, a residential analyst and political analyst, and Jeremiah Kioni, Nderagwa, member of parliament. Herman, we talked of the rebels, the axing, the party cleaning in as far as Jubilee is concerned. Let's talk of the rift in Mount Kenya, at least in politics. Will it be fair to say, observably, that President Uhuru Kenyatta at least is facing a political revolt from his political backyard?
It will be correct to say yes, because that actually is the position, and that for the past 1 year or so, there has been pressure on him to claim back his base. It has been observed that William Ruto has kind of penetrated Mount Kenya region. In the words of one very senior man I talked to some times back, alisema Ruto amepanda sumu katika Mount Kenya. Remember, it has, from the beginning, almost all elected leaders from that area were with the William Ruto team, leaving just a handful of people, noticeably the Nyeri MP, Simba wa Nyeri. But most of them were with William Ruto until sometimes they began drifting away. It is safe to say that although that still remains the case by and large, the leadership that was with Ruto has kind of left him and rejoined the president. It must also be said, that on the ground, there is still some work to be done if the president would want to really ensure that it's not a question of any rift. Rather, it is the people in his area listening to his voice and acting as one. There's some little work to be done if that is his intention. But the truth is, yes, there have been issues in Mount Kenya region. There are many people who have been unhappy and uncomfortable with the president. But I think if you observe the situation now, it would appear things are changing. Perhaps Kioni will tell us whether my observations are right, that initially almost all leaders were with Ruto. Almost all of them now have decamped, have gone back to the president, and the ground was hostile to the president almost, but now it is slowly shifting back to face Mount Kenya, but that there is a lot of work to be done. Let Kioni confirm that or deny it.
Herman, if one is to put your words against the public words of the likes of Moses Kuria, Alice Wahome, Ndindi Nyoro, some would contradict your view, but nonetheless, we will come to the question of
what
why...
I'm saying, let me clarify just before you go to Kion, let me clarify. If you go back, you'll find people like Kanini Kega were there from Kieni, and a host of others. The governors, almost all of them, apart from Anne Mumbi and Kraitu. The rest were with, sympathetic to William Ruto. Now no governor is with Ruto. Now a lot of those MPs, the most recent being Kate Warogoro from Laikipia. That's the kind of thing I'm saying. What I'm saying, a handful are still with Ruto. But even those who are with him, you can see some are still wavering now. They're not so sure. And some are limping. You can't call that very serious support for him from the leadership. I say that on the ground, things are a little different. But I was talking about leadership.
And let Jeremiah answer that question, but let me rephrase the question. Jeremiah, why does it seem as though some elected leaders, your colleagues, some in the National Assembly and others in positions lower than that, are angry with the president?
I think one of the things that I think need to bring out Abu Bakar is this, that William Ruto, the deputy president, the very shrewd politician that he is, what he chose to do is that there was a very high wave of or tide that was created during the last elections in favor of Jubilee, because it was that divide between Jubilee and ODM. So within the Jubilee zone, there was a very high tide, a very huge momentum that was created or that we rode on come elections of 2017. And what the deputy president did is that he chose deliberately not to allow the tide to go off or the momentum to be lost. And he continued riding on the same momentum, of course with an intention of keeping the momentum going, perhaps all the way to 2022. Certainly a very difficult thing to do, because you cannot keep a momentum on for 10 years. And so I am agreeing with the professor with a little bit of a twink, that while somebody will say that the deputy president may have planted poison within Mount Kenya region, I think it is always good to remember that it is actually the same momentum of 2017 that was still being taken to 2022. And even if this momentum had not been interfered with by the president the way he did, it's very difficult to maintain that momentum all the way to 2022.
And has that momentum created a back and forth and a political discord between the president and his deputy?
Well, without a doubt, because the president was saying, can you please jump out of the campaign trails, jump out of the rallies. We finished with them 2017. Can we deliver on what we promised? But some of us were still stuck up into the rally. You remember those rallies we had, which were saying Bele iko sawa. Those people are still, some of the people are still on those rallies, and they were still saying Bele iko sawa, but not 2017, 2022. So without doubt, that created some tension, and like it is with every political leadership, there will be people who will be with the deputy president. There are those who will be listening to the president. And but I keep saying that it is always wise and proper for you to be in tune with the captain of the ship. And the captain of the ship this time is President Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes.
This takes me back to the question I've asked you, which is, why are some elected leaders, your colleagues, some in the National Assembly, so against the president, even in their words, some going to the extremes of terming him as a failed president? These are leaders elected from his political backyard.
A lot of dishonesty, because how can you declare somebody has failed? Even you as a member of parliament, how would you allow your opponent to declare you that you have failed and you have just done 2 terms? I mean 2 years. You have another 2 years to go. So if somebody says that you have failed, there are so many things that you have done within the remaining 2 years. What you need to do is to give that person opportunity and space so that you can actually be able to see him delivering, but don't become an obstacle. I think what we had chosen to do, those of us who are not heeding what the president was saying, was actually becoming an obstacle to the delivery of the promises that he made. That certainly makes it difficult for him to continue working the same way with the same spirit we did during the campaigns. And I think the other thing is this, and this is very important, Abubakar, in my opinion. Many of us stopped focusing on what we needed to deliver on and started focusing on where will I be, not just the deputy president, but where will I be as Kioni come 2022? Am I likely to win this seat again? Did I fluke through it? Or am I going to become a governor? Do I want to run for the position of the Senate?
Mheshimiwa, when you say many of us, you mean elected leaders from Central Kenya?
Yes, that is the case. You will see that some people will have already resigned from even learning again for the positions they are in. It is a question of my personal interest come 2022. And I agree. Politics has a lot to do with personal interest. And hopefully, one always hopes that it's not a selfish interest. But there is a lot of that drives some politicians. And that is what crowded the Jubilee agenda. We started looking at our survival come 2022. Who is it that is likely to jump on his chip, or who is likely to carry me with him, and how will that be? That is where I think we lost it. If we had just agreed to concentrate on the promises we made as a country, as a party to the country, deliver on that one, and then focus on 2022 a little bit later, I want to tell you that we would have been much stronger, and it would have been very difficult to beat Jubilee 2022. Not that we are going to be beaten even now, but would have been able to generate another huge momentum 2022, and with a lot of trust and confidence from Kenyans.
All right, Herman Manyora, someone on 22047 says, and this is a text, this country is not about parties. If you want to know about Wanjiku, go to them. Is Wanjiku in Central Kenya, in reference to the people of Central Kenya? Are they happy, in your own assessment, with the president?
You see, before we talk about Wanjiku, I just wanted to say something small. What Kioni is talking about is the lame duck syndrome. When our president is doing his last term, naturally and psychologically, people tend to shift allegiance to that person they perceive will take over power. Now, the lame duck comes in towards the end of the presidency. A year or so before you saw Kibaki, as he was, people almost ignored him, wherever he was. Now, this is made worse by Uhuru's demeanor. He cuts a picture of somebody who can't hurt a fly, of a person who can't spill blood, which is very common in politics. In his own words, when he met Jeremiah Kioni and the rest in State House in the last PG, he told them, watu wanasema mimi si kama baba yangu. Baba yangu akitoa njora inarudi na nyama. You see, but that is the most deceiving part of Uhuru Kenyatta, which consistently have advised the people in the other corner to be aware of, that there are leaders who don't show their intention, who look like they are weak, but the moment they move, and in the past few months, actually just a couple of 1 or 2 months, the president has not even moved, but you can see the casualties falling all over the place. This is a man who looked like he was not able to hurt a fly. So that is my advice to the other corner. Now, Wanjiku is a person who has really been talking tanga in Mount Kenya. That's the truth. That the common man in Mount Kenya region has been made to believe that despite voting for Uhuru Kenyatta in millions of them, he has not been able to reciprocate. If anything, he has delivered goodies to places like Nyanza where Raila is. Honestly, nothing could be further from the truth.
But he is elected to be the president of the Republic of Kenya, not just Central Kenya, one will suppose.
But the people, that's what people feel. There was a meeting in Naivasha, you remember, Abubakari, in which members of parliament, I remember this lady from Embu was reading the resolution, and they were saying They contribute 60% of the GDP, yet the president is not taking development central, etc., blah, blah, blah. They were all wrong, of course. Because, like you say, the president is not elected to serve a particular region. But those leaders were peddling that narrative. And honestly, that narrative has hit the ground in the Mount Kenya region to the extent that the common person, the Wanjiko of that region, feels there's a lot the president would have done that he has not done. And if you notice, the president has now moved into trying to reassure that constituents of his. They are not right, but there's nothing right about politics. Politics is about perception. So the William Ruto team succeeded in planting that seed of discord on the ground in Mount Kenya to make the people feel there's a lot more Uhuru could have done for them that he didn't do. And you see in the last couple of months, he has moved into doing a number of things, agriculture, roads, and what have you, and and appointments. Really,
isn't that notion self-defeating in the sense that a deputy planting against his own president, they'll be judged as though they were one unit come any time post 2013, these guys were really brothers. They would even put on same shirt, same tie, and stuff like that. And they moved together. It was Ndugu, William, and such, Unye, and things like those. Quite really brothers and young brothers at that. But everybody noticed after 2017 there was a shift. And after, most noticeably after the handshake. From the day of the handshake, it was obvious things were not right for William Ruto. And many other people in his place would have done what deputy presidents and vice presidents do, which is to keep quiet. And those things people keep citing, the 48 laws of power, never show your boss. But Ruto went against that. The best example, of course, was Daniel Arap Moi, who kept quiet and who was even humiliated, we are told. Ruto chose the other way around. He chose to fight for his right. And naturally, that kind of will interfere with their relationship, so long as Uhuru really meant that the handshake was to ensure that the politics, not now, only development. How was Ruto going to interpret that? He interpreted it to mean the president has found another successor, and he chose to fight it. How then will they still remain friends? What you are seeing is a product of that approach of Ruto. All right, Jeremiah, where will Mount Kenya face politically post-2022 in the event that the president is out of the political picture, at least constitutionally, as the president?
A couple of issues. One is, Bakari, it takes a while before government projects starts being implemented anywhere in this country. There is the issue, there is a point of policy, there is the issue of conceiving that project, there is the point at which you put budget into it, procure, and then there is implementation. So you certainly take a little longer than 1 year or 2 years to start that process and move to implementation. We have now a couple of the areas in Mount Kenya region is actually at this time that many of those projects that were promised during the campaigns have matured. They have gotten to the point of implementation. And without doubt, just like every other part of this country, when Kenyans want to see development being brought to their area after every electioneering period, that was taking a little longer in Mount Kenya region. It created a little bit of anxiety among the people from that region. But as Professor has mentioned, a couple of those projects are now ongoing. Some which were not big, we are actually seeing them nearing completion. And without doubt, that starts changing the perception of Kenyans towards Kenyans in Mount Kenya region towards the president. And like Professor was saying, I kept also cautioning those of us who are not heeding what the president was saying. And I kept telling them, you guys wait and be careful. The day the president will finally turn on this area and start talking to the people directly, you are likely not to be having the same kind of deception like you're having now. And it has come to pass. So I think that is crucial. Where do we face 2022? One is that without doubt, and in my mind, and not because the Constitution has provided the same, the President has said in no uncertain terms, and quite a number of times, when we are in PG and elsewhere, that he is not running 2022, but he has a responsibility of handing over this country to another team of people. He has a responsibility of dealing with corruption, and that being one of the major things that we started dealing with from 2002. And every successive government must deal with that aspect without hesitation. And we must commend this government because it has continued with even a firmer grip to deal with the issues of corruption. In fact, dealing with it in a manner that some of us did not imagine. And Abubakar and my colleague...
Jeremiah, if you put your statements against the monies that have been lost under the watch of the Jubilee government, those will look as though they are wide apart. Yes, and but that does not mean that there is the issue of amount of money that has been lost. There is, of course, the spirit. If you ask me, the fight against corruption has been heightened. As to whether people have also decided to steal big or huge chunks of money, that is another issue that we can look at. But I want to say that you cannot take it away from the president himself and in person. In fact, it is not the Jubilee government. It is the president himself in person. He has taken the fight against corruption a notch higher. Even though he heads the Jubilee government. Fair enough. Let me say this. And this has not endeared him a lot to many people. And I keep asking myself, I was asking, or my son was asking me the other night, how is it that many of these people who are having difficulties seems to be falling one side of the political divide? Could that be the reason why there was a lot of opposition to the Jubilee agenda, one of the agendas being to fight corruption? How would it be that all my friends, Professor Manyora, Abubakar, and everybody else, is up against something along the way? That is very, very crucial. So come 2022, because I don't want to lose that question, we'll certainly be there to play, and that is why we are in politics. President Uhuru Kenyatta has had this term, he is still guiding us, we are listening to him. But come 2022, our eyes are also wide open, and we are not going to lead our community into areas that are tricky. And I want to tell you that we have done it before. We will not just remain quiet. We will say it when the right time comes. And but for now, it is a question of delivering on development. All right, Mheshimiwa, you've made your point. Herman, given that President Uhuru Kenyatta is at least, again I say, constitutionally expected to exit the space as a president, whichever position he will seek, notwithstanding, where does Mount Kenya politically look?
Let me answer the question Jeremiah, my friend, has avoided. Come 2022, during the elections, or the run-up to the election, just before the elections and building into the election itself, the people of Mount Kenya will face Mount Kenya. That is for certain. Don't ask me whether I'm a prophet. They will just face Mount Kenya. Number two, 2022, in terms of leadership, the Mount Kenya people will ensure that even as Uhuru leaves the stage, they will be on the negotiating table to get a big chunk. And that explains why William Ruto will certainly have a running mate from Mount Kenya. That explains why people like Peter Kennedy will not be very far from leadership post-2022. The only question that you may want to ask is, will Uhuru Kenyatta actually exit the scene? That is the only question we should have wait.
Herman, should he not exit?
Yes. Well, it's not for me to say, but people like Atwoli have said the guy is too young to leave. And he jokingly said, well, people are saying I could be made premier. If I'm given, I will not refuse. Who refuses power? Power is sweet. But he has categorically stated, like Kioni says, that he is not interested in holding on to power. I think Kenya is past that stage where a leader would hold on to power. There could be constitutional gymnastics, arrangements where, like they say, the structure of government that will make certain provisions, and one of the positions within that provision could be attractive to President Uhuru Kenyatta in his new role, maybe as Prime Minister. Whether or not he will do that is the question. But it's not in doubt that the Mount Kenya people, one, will face Mount Kenya 2022. And number two, they will be there in a big way, irrespective of who leads government in 2022.
Abubakar, Mount Kenya will be facing Kenya. And we will certainly want to be where resources are being shared, like every other person. That is why you fight for, you go campaigning. So I want to tell you that we will be facing Kenya, not Mount Kenya, but we will be in Kenya. We will be ready to support a president from whichever part of this country who we think we can bank on in terms of our own personal security, private property security, the safety of this country, and a person who will ensure that we, as people from Mount Kenya, have our fair share of resources so that we can develop a thing that every community in this country is fighting for. So our desire...
Jeremiah, we saw leaders from Murang'a County. Jeremiah Kioni, we saw leaders from Murang'a County fronting Peter Kenneth, painting as though he will be the kingpin post Uhuru's exit. Is he, in your view, right for the top seat?
In a short while, you see the MPs from Nyandarua fronting me as a person who can also look at that seat. So these are games we are going to see. And like Kebake said back in 1996, it is rarely that you'll find people from our Kenya region being told this is your spokesman. That person naturally appears. He comes in naturally. The leadership in him or that person will be recognized by those from Mount Kenya and from across the country. So I have nothing against what the members of Murang'a were saying, like many others may say from other quarters or within this region. There are those who actually are feeling like they want to see Uhuru Kenyatta back, like Professor is saying, something that I can assure you will not happen. Uhuru himself has said in quite a number of times and in many ways that he'd want to finish his term and finish it well, but has the responsibility of handing over this country to a person who will make it better, a person who can take care of resources and care of all communities without growing acrimony or making us fight one another.
All right, Herman Manyora, you brought up the aspect of the deputy president prospectively wanting to get a running mate from Central Kenya. Let's flip that coin. What if it is a scenario where, yes, he gets a running mate from Central Kenya and there is a presidential candidate as well from Central Kenya? Where does that leave the political arithmetics?
I'm saying come again. You went off briefly. Can you come again, please?
You brought up the question of deputy president prospectively seeking a running mate from Central Kenya. I'm asking, what if there is a presidential candidate who has been fronted by the region from Central Kenya? Where does that leave the arithmetics politically?
I think it will be quite stretching imagination that somebody will come from Mount Kenya. It will be very difficult for Mount Kenya. In fact, Abubakar, perhaps because of your age, you may not have been around. As we were moving towards the elections of 2012, that was later moved to 2013, by 2011, if you told anybody in this country that Kibaki would have been succeeded by a Kikuyu, they would have laughed off. In fact, there was a deliberate effort by Kikuyu leadership, especially captains of industry, big names from Mount Kenya, who generally agreed that it was not in the interest of this country, and least of all in the interest of the Mount Kenya people, that Kibaki should be succeeded by a person from the region. And that's why they came up with somebody like Musalia Mudavadi. However, that is water under the bridge. Things happen. So for now, it will be stretching imagination. Far too far to imagine they can do that. And I doubt that Mount Kenya region will be that stupid. They would not do that. And in countries where we have a population that is that sizable, like in Ghana, usually they have to be very careful how they navigate. And I think 2013 was actually a mistake, but because of the ICC. So it can't happen now. What will happen, certainly, and that's why I'm not very sure about those who are talking about Uhuru leaving. What the Mount Kenya people will not do, they will not allow Uhuru to leave the stage and leave it for people just to decide the fate of the whole country plus them. They will try to ensure, in whatever way, but mainly through their numerical strength, through their vote, they will try to ensure that they have a representative As Kioni says, when nyama inakatwa wasipate matumbo na mkia, at least wapate nyama nzuri. They will ensure that. And that's why I brought in the issue of Peter Kenneth. That Mount Kenya region is a significant part of this country in terms of population, in terms of the votes. And they are unlikely to allow things to pass by as they watch. For that reason, William Ruto, being a shrewd politician and aware of that, he will certainly get a running mate from that region. And the Uhuru side, assuming they are not with Ruto, because we don't know these things in politics, the Uhuru side will ensure that while he plays Chini Amaji from outside, there will be at least a person like Peter Kenneth. I keep mentioning this name, because for now, that is the name, because the shining star was Anne Mumbi Waiguru, but something happened along the way, and that leaves Peter Kenneth. They will ensure, whether Peter Kenneth or somebody else, but they will ensure they are there. But to go for it directly, I highly doubt.
All right, Herman Manyora, thank you. I understand we are extremely out of time, but nonetheless, Jeremiah Kioni, let me ask you this question. This is not in regards to Mount Kenya politics, again, and the divide in Mount Kenya, but nonetheless, on the question of a possible referendum, you said, and I quote, if there has to be any referendum, then it must be held on the same date with a general election to save money and to avoid much politicking. Given that the leading proponents of this constitutional change want to expand the executive, for instance, something that can only go through a constitutional reform of a referendum stature, will your argument hold water as we finalize?
Even if it doesn't hold water 2022, it should hold water going forward. I think there is wisdom in that statement. We cannot, for example, if we agree as a country that we are going to have a referendum before 2022, is it possible then again to have another referendum before 2027, before 2032? We need to agree as a country that we cannot have this referendum every other too often. We need to be a little bit more definite. So even if my statement does not hold for 2022, I believe it has room and space thereafter, after what we are likely to do within the time left between us and 2022.
Thank you, Jeremiah Kioni, Nderagwa Member of Parliament, and Herman Manyora, our resident analyst and political analyst as well, for making time for us tonight on Pandit's Mind.
Thank you.
Well, quite a number of your feedback on 22047. Someone was not mentioned. Now they have actually done so. He says, I'm Wainaina from Kiambu. The country is not about parties. It's about what you do for the Wanjiku who voted you. On 22047 as well. If you wish to know how Central Kenya feels, don't talk to people like Kioni. He says, talk to Wananchi. That's your view nonetheless. Able leaders, Nixon Mburu is asking able leaders what is the best way of correcting or pointing out at anomalies without being branded as a rebel. This is something that we have actually touched on the show. Nonetheless, thank you for your feedback. On behalf of the entire team that made this production possible, bye for now, but enjoy the rest of our programs. I am Abubakar Abdullahi. See you tomorrow night on TV47 News Tonight.